Today I was delivering food, and the customer gave me a tip of 500 yuan to keep a secret. There were 4 minutes left to close when I made the delivery, as I was free. I had the feeling it would be a scary night. He ordered a large pizza, very crispy and with plenty of meat. The weight of the pizza made the bottom of the box sag. I picked up the pizza and left the restaurant, hearing a dog barking in the distance. I thought he had smelled the meat. The car trip would take about 45 minutes, and that area was not normally in our delivery area, but we were the closest pizzeria. The most important thing was the value of the order, so the boss agreed to make the delivery. Each extra layer of meat cost 20 yuan. The pizza the customer bought cost the equivalent of 3 regular pizzas. He seemed to be a meat lover. But during the 2 years I worked there, I had seen many strange things. I thought it was just a more remote place. As I drove down a road with a few houses, I felt something strange. There was no public lighting and I had to use the high beam. The surrounding area was completely dark. I thought it wasn't so remote because it was about 10 kilometers from a suburban neighborhood, with similar houses, but with few lights and distant signs from each other. I didn't know the area, but the GPS found it, so it shouldn't be so isolated. I stopped the car in front of the customer's house, which was no different from the other houses on the street. There were 4 houses on each side of the street, which extended to a point with no houses, but in the distance I could see something like a light pole. In the dark, I looked around and saw that the area was occupied only by these 8 houses, with no one else. I got out of the car with the pizza, preparing to go to the house when I heard a noise behind me. I turned and saw a woman running across the lawn of a house across the street. She was wearing a white t-shirt and panties, with something staining her clothes, looking like blood, and she was clearly scared. I assumed she was running away from someone in the house, perhaps an aggressor, but he saw my car. Before I could scream, he got in the car and sped off, leaving me standing there. The door of the house, which was open, slammed shut. No one came out to chase the girl or see what was happening. My cell phone was in the car, so I couldn't call the boss or the police. I had no choice but to continue my job. I went to the customer's house. Maybe he could give me an explanation or let me use the phone. I knocked on the door for a few seconds, and it opened by itself. I didn't see anyone. The house was dark, except for the open door. I felt that there was someone inside watching me, analyzing, nervous about what had happened. I stuttered that I was delivering pizza, even though he could see my uniform and the box. There was no answer. The weight of the pizza was tiring my arm. He didn't pay online, so I said the price, leaning against the door frame, staying outside. The darkness outside was dangerous, but the one inside was even scarier. After a while without an answer, I started to feel more apprehensive and said I would leave if he didn't want to. I didn't want to carry that heavy pizza back or lose my job. As I turned around, I heard a whisper coming from inside the house, as if it was close. I didn't understand what he said, so I asked, "The money is under the stone near you. Take it and give me the meat." I bent down and saw a decorative stone used to hide keys. I lifted the stone and found several 100 yuan notes. One was enough, but it was a lot of money. I said I didn't have change, just a coin. He told me to take everything as compensation for the inconvenience and to keep the secret and give him the meat. The whisper in the dark should be scary, but it sounded hungry, like an old man who hasn't eaten in days. I took the money, thanked him, and handed over the pizza. I expected a trembling old hand to take the pizza, but it floated in the air and disappeared into the darkness. I thanked him again and moved away from the porch. I remembered my problem and came back, asking to use the phone. A girl from across the street took my car, and it would take me a long time to get back to town. I avoided looking at the house, so as not to seem hostile. The person in the house was silent for a while, but something in the darkness indicated that he was considering my request. The girl is a guest of my neighbor. Here, no one interferes in the affairs of others. If you just want to go home and not invade someone else's privacy, I can suspend your car. Do you promise not to help the thief? I knew that something bad had happened in the other house and that the customer wanted privacy, protecting his own privacy. The woman seemed so scared that she stole a car instead of seeking help. My conscience did not allow me to accept the terms, but I agreed. If I found her, I would help. The person in the house seemed satisfied, thinking that I was being sincere. A gloved hand appeared from the dark, with no strength in the thumb. The glove was empty in that part. It was a black leather glove. The fingers pointed to the street, then formed a fist and opened again, returning to the dark. You will find your car at the end of the street. Follow our agreement and go straight home. I thanked him, but before I turned around, the hand appeared again, this time holding another bundle of 100 yuan notes, and I thanked him. You keep this secret, said the voice. I took the money and put it in the other pile in my pocket, which was already swollen. I thanked him again and left the house. I looked at the house across the street, from where the girl had escaped. Superficially, there was nothing unusual about the building. I continued walking down the street, passing the other secondary houses. Each of them looked normal from the outside, but there was a dark atmosphere that gave me chills. Then, my back shivered. It took me an hour to walk until I found my car parked on the side of the road, with the front leaning against a small ditch. The lights were on, the engine was running, but stopped in the process. Carefully, I approached the driver's side and looked inside. What I saw from the driver's seat was horrible. In recent years, I have watched countless horror movies late at night, but I have never seen anything as terrible as this. After a while, the fear subsided a bit. I couldn't see any damage to the car. The engine was still running. I looked closely around and tried to avoid looking at her. Then I realized that there was still a lot of gasoline in the tank. There were no indicators showing a problem. It just stopped. After calming down, I knew I couldn't tell the police about this or what happened that night. I couldn't tell anything to my boss. Carefully, I took the body out of the car and put it in the ditch by the side of the road. There was nothing with him, no identification, and given his condition, I also couldn't describe his appearance. I sat in the car, thinking about the pile of money in my pocket. I took out a bundle and threw the rest on the road. This made me feel bad for holding that money. I didn't need payment to keep secrets. The look of that woman was enough to scare me. Those 4 gloved fingers crossed the distance of kilometers and crushed my head. You can call me a coward or even an accomplice, but if I leak, what will happen to me? Like that woman, I dare not say. Anyway, I will not reveal the specific location of that house. I left everything behind, including the money. After returning to the restaurant, I used navigation problems as an excuse to explain why I returned so late, and put that bundle of 100 yuan notes delivered to the boss.